minute. Been a minute since we've done an F30 video. Sorry. All right, you guys, so today's video, basically what I wanted to do today is kind of similar to that E90 video I did where we just kind of drove around and talked about the car and what we're doing. However, the spin on this one is going to be that I want to go over everything that I really enjoy about this F30, being that it is now my daily driver, because the E90 is really just like the weekend car now and a little more of like the project car, whereas this car, you know, obviously I've done quite a bit to it, but I want to talk about all the benefits of this car being that it is now my daily driver. And I really do, I have a lot of things I want to say when it comes to this car when I'm driving it every day, just like grocery store, running errands, whatever it may be. And I really just wanted to cover all of the things that I thought were just fantastic about this vehicle when it comes to being my daily driver. I don't think that I'm necessarily done doing things to this car. I still actually have parts that I have to put on that I haven't even put on. I've just been so busy with work and videos, and I haven't had time to make appointments to actually take the car in. But I do have some things coming up in the immediate future, like next week, that we're going to be doing on this car. We're going to be doing the new brakes from Sequence. We actually ceramic coated the hats of the brakes, so we're going to take this car in, do all new brakes, and then a few other things. We'll get into those in later videos. But when it comes to daily driving, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the video. So every day when I'm hopping in this car, Monday through Friday, mostly, I'm just running errands around here. And the biggest reason that I like to take this car is just the ease of driving it. Now, it's not that the E90 is hard to drive, it's just that this car is very, very simple to drive, and it's much more modern. It has a lot more electronic steering attributes in it, so everything is very light and simple and easy. And once you drive a car like the E90 M3 versus this F30, there's just a lot of differences. It's a much less stiff riding experience, whereas the E90 is very, very stiff. The steering is very, very heavy on that car. That car feels like a tank, which is great when you're just taking it out for like a spirit drive, you know, during the weekends or going to a car show or whatever. This car is just it's a little bit easier to kind of hop around, to get different things done in and out of the car and just real simple tasks. This is kind of like the perfect vehicle for that. So I'm literally just thinking of these things as we're driving here. But even in sport mode, in manual mode in this F30, which really I drive this car like only in manual mode, I just find it to be the best user experience when you're driving this car in manual mode. I feel the most connected to the car when I'm driving with the paddles. So the transmission, let's talk about the transmission for a sec. The transmission, the DCT transmission in the E90 is absolutely insane. Like, I absolutely love it. It's really, really firm, fast, hard shifting. It is like sport, sport, sport all the time. Even in automatic, and even like I call it the granny setting, when you turn the clamping all the way down, it's a DCT, so it still has dual clutch. It still has clutches kind of moving around it's like a manual car without the actual stick shift. So there's still clutches engaging, and it takes a little bit of getting used to. So what I mean by this is when you're kind of like putzing around in and out of like busy places, or you're in traffic, the E90 is not comfortable to be driving in that situation. Now, it's not bad. I'm just saying, in comparison to the F30 is just like a breeze to be driving around in town and in city and in traffic. They did an incredible job on the F-Series transmissions in automatic. I mean, I'm telling you, these cars, they're fast. They feel really, really smooth. They're fun. the clamping. Like, I have the trans flash on this, and I still think it's incredibly smooth, way smoother than the DCT. So, not to knock on the E90's trans, the DCT or anything, it's just a different style of driving. But with that being said, that's one of the reasons that I think this car is just, like, honestly one of the best daily drivers that you can have, because it's so comfortable. Like, driving this car in sport mode, everything's sported out. I'm not slammed on the ground, but you know, I'm like, the car's lowered on stock shocks. Like, it's still a very comfortable car to drive, and you're still you're maintaining a little bit of that sport aspect and some of those sport features. Honestly, for me, it's one of those things, the more that I drive the E90 and the more that I drive the F30, I'm finding out what I really, really enjoy individually about each car, and it's just a totally different experience. That's why it's so hard for me to answer the question, which car do you like better? Because I love both of them for their own reasons, for their own purposes. Like, the E90 is just like, it's just such a horsepower monster, but it handles and brakes incredibly well, where the F30 does not handle well, in my opinion. It doesn't handle that well. There's a lot of body roll to it. The braking is terrible. This is not, I don't have the M Sport brakes, I don't have the larger brakes, but I do have some nicer rotors and, you know, some ceramic pads, like a good setup for braking, basically the best that I can do with the setup that I have in this car right now. E90, factory, out of the gate, the thing's a monster. So the transmission was definitely one of the big talking points that I wanted to bring up, because, you know, if you're thinking about a daily driver, you want it to be comfortable in many different scenarios. I think that this car, its transmission, I mean, in general, it just really hits all of the checkpoints for me. It's comfortable, it can be fast, it can shift fast, it can be kind of racy, it can be very chill, it can be very smooth. I really do think that they did a fantastic job with the F30 transmission. So another thing that I wanted to talk about that is a very popular question that I get from people: what is the mile per gallon? What kind of miles per gallon are you getting on a tuned car? Now, this car is full bolt-on, tuned with boot mode, stage 2, and around town I get about 24-25 miles per gallon. On the freeway, it's upwards of 30. So this car has great gas mileage, whereas the E90 does not have good gas mileage at all. I mean, it's a V8, so it's obviously drinking way more gas, much faster, and it's much more powerful. This car is definitely very friendly on gas mileage, and also really cheap to fill up. And I think that those are just important things to bring up when you're talking about the car being your daily driver, or you're, like, you know, you're scooting around town. Now, I also want to, like, note, you guys, that, like, this car, like I said before, this car, it covers a lot of bases for me. For a long time, this car was my only car, so, and I also understand that other people only have this car and they absolutely love it in all areas. Maybe the suspension and the handling and everything that I'm talking about, the E90 that I love so much, they really might like those attributes in their F30. I'm just comparing this to what I have, and this is a 328i N20 2013 F30 with some decent modifications to it. Like, I've done quite a bit. If you guys have been on this channel for a while, you know that I've done quite a lot to this car. The majority of stuff that you would want to do to a 328 without it just getting unreliable. So that brings me into my next topic: reliability, right? Everybody wants to know, it's a BMW, it can't be reliable. BMWs aren't reliable, they break down all the time. Anyone who tells you that a BMW is just an unreliable car and just suck all the money out of your pocket, they either don't know what they're talking about, or they do not know how to properly maintain a vehicle, or they did not do their research when they bought their vehicle and they have no idea who owned it before them. These cars are very simple to take care of. And what does that mean? That means nip things in the butt before it happens. So do your research, find out what would go bad at certain mileage, do your normal, your oil changes, your serpentine belt at 50,000, your brakes, fluid flushes. Like, as long as you guys stay on top of taking care of your car and you don't beat the living crap out of it, your car is going to be great. I've never had any serious issues with this car because, to be quite honest with you guys, I take really good care of it. I make sure that I'm always getting my oil changes done before they're even due. The fluids are always fresh. I get on this car a little bit for spirit drives and some of the content that I do, but I don't beat on this car. I've only done launch control like 3 times since I've owned this car, and I probably won't do it again just because I think it's really, really harsh on the axles, and I've just seen so many horror stories of people just ripping axles apart, and I'm just not trying to be in that position, especially now that this is my daily driver. So when it comes to reliability, man, like, it's just like anything in life. If you take care of it, it will last longer. Just take care of the things that you guys put your money into, you know? Like, don't go out there and just race everyone at every single stoplight, do burnouts everywhere, and like launch control every 5 seconds and just beat the living daylights out of your car. Like, look at the road, figure out where you're driving, try not to hit potholes. Hopefully you live in a state that doesn't have that many. I know that's tough for some people. And I think that's also a fair thing to touch on. You know, like, some people, it's the roads really determine how your car will hold up. If you have nicer roads, it's going to be dramatically easier for you to maintain the reliability and the like overall standing of that vehicle. In North Carolina here, like, we have fantastic roads. If you're in uptown, it's not the greatest. Like, just like any downtown area or metropolitan, it gets very the roads just get shitty, and there's more cars, more people, there's all kind of fucking up the roads. But out where I live, it's a little south and a little bit out of the city. I mean, the roads are fantastic, and I never have any issues. And I also am always paying attention to the road. Like, I'm always like a hawk, man. I'm always looking at what's on the road in front of me, trying to make sure that I'm not gonna hit a pothole or run over anything that might destroy my front lip or my suspension. So with that being said, like, the overall reliability of this car is fantastic. You just have to take care of the things that you put your money into and that you know, want to have you last a long time. Like, that's really what it comes down to. I think that people overhype some things a little bit, and I too have even done that myself a couple of times when it comes to things that you need to change or whatever. We all kind of get sucked into that, like, oh, you better replace this or the car's gonna explode, or you better fix your rod bearings or the car's gonna go up in smoke. Like, I think that a lot of that kind of just gets overhyped. Like, you know, on the E90, the rod bearings, I am gonna do them, but I don't think it's as serious as most people make it out to be. Like, when I bought my E90, there wasn't a single person that didn't say, oh, you better get those rod bearings done. Yo, man, your car's gonna freaking explode. I think that people overhype stuff a little bit when it comes to that. The only reason that I am going to get them done is because I have no idea how the car was treated in the past. And anytime that I take a car, this car I got very young I got it in a very young age. The vehicle's age was quite young. It only had 20,000 miles on it. I knew the gentleman that I bought it from, and he was the service manager at a BMW dealership in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I see F30s everywhere, by the way, in Charlotte when I'm driving. It's really funny. So I knew that the gentleman who owned this car before me took really good care of it, and he had multiple cars, so he wasn't driving this one all the time. And this was kind of just like his little commuter to work, and he lived right down the road from the dealership. So he told me everything that he had ever replaced. It was nothing serious, full Carfax. 20,000 miles is nothing on a car, you guys. Like, that is nothing. In my opinion, 20,000 miles on a car is like pretty much brand new. So when I took this car over from him, I knew that I was getting into something that was well maintained, and the E90 was a little bit different. I don't know much about the history of that vehicle. Like, obviously I can look at the Carfax, but that doesn't tell you how a person drove the car. That doesn't tell you, you know, if they actually took good care of it, and how, you just never know. You just never know. You just kind of have to drive the car yourself and just take that stab in the dark, and hopefully nothing too serious can happen. But that is why I'm going to be doing the rod bearings on that car. Back to the F30. This car, we're on some little country roads right now where it's kind of windy. This car is absolutely comfortable. It's so comfortable to drive this car. And that is one thing that stands out big time when I switch from the E90 to the F30. The E90 is incredibly stiff, and it just feels like a monster, like it's just a race car when you get in that car. When you get in the F30, it feels much more relaxed and much more comfortable, even with mine being so low and everything. it's a great car. It just handles really well. It handles good enough for what I need it to be. It's got some pep to it. When it comes to the actual like power of the vehicle, you know, I obviously a lot of you have asked me to give you power numbers. Everyone wants power numbers. What is your F30 putting down now that you have all this stuff done to it? I don't know yet because I haven't gotten it dynoed. I can't give you accurate power numbers unless I get the car dynoed, and I'm not gonna just guess because I have no idea. And we've done so much to this car, I really have no idea. But what the hell? Do you see this? Here I am talking about how great the roads are, and this, like, it looks like a wire. What the? Oh my God. Let's make sure it didn't ruin anything. Legit like a stack of wire on the side of the road. So that's why I haven't like told anyone what I'm making, because I honestly don't know, and I don't want to give you guys like inaccurate numbers if I don't know what it is. So I am gonna get it dynoed. I reached out to a company around here that has a dyno, and we're gonna dyno the car, just see where it's at. And you guys, honestly, like, I know that this car doesn't put down big power. That was never the goal with this. I'm not trying to make a monster race car, but you know, it is a peppy daily driver. And this car, I mean, this car is way more peppy in the torque end than the E90. The E90 is like a monster when you get to 4,000 RPMs. That thing absolutely rips and comes to life from 4K to 8,400 RPM. Yes, 8,400 the E90 M3 redline's at, which just sounds ridiculous when you get up there. But this car, dude, this car, like, it shits the bed in the top end, but in like the low end, it's fast, man. Like, it is peppy and fun, and it's just a great car to have. It's just like, it's still exciting to drive. Like, I still get excited to drive this F30. And like I said, man, like, it's the perfect crossbreed between, you know, daily driver and sport, I guess. That would be the best way to put it. So the other things that I want to talk about when it comes to the reason that I think this car is just such a great daily driver is the electronics, the digital features on this car, I think are incredible. And there are a lot of things now that I have the E90 that I can kind of compare these to that car doesn't have. So let's first talk about what happened when I bought this car stock. It did not have the upgraded screen. It did not have a backup camera. It did not have this beautiful steering wheel. It did not have a lot of things. I did a lot to this car because I really did want to show people, you know, look, like, if you bought the car and you weren't happy with some of the features that you had, you're not stuck. Like, you have options, and you can still do like Beamer code. Like, Beamer code is amazing. Like, the fact that we have like a consumer level app where we can code things into our cars to make them fit to kind of how we want them to be, to individualize the vehicle to how you want it, is just extraordinary. Like, that is not something that we've always had for consumer basis. Like, always the dealerships were able to do it, but they charge you an arm and a leg. The fact that we can do that is just so cool. So that's a big one for me. The fact that we have Beamer code, we can code all these features into this F series, and now they just opened up the E series as well, so I can start coding some stuff on the E series. But I think it's just so awesome. And this car has every option that I would ever want in a car. I mean, the heads-up display, it doesn't have heads-up display, which I think is pretty cool. I've driven a couple of cars with it. I would have to drive it longer with that to see if it's something that I would actually like fall in love with. But I think it's an interesting feature, and my car doesn't have it. It would be cool if we could do some sort of retrofit of that. I would totally do it if I could. I really love that I have this giant screen now. Let's talk about the screen for a second. You guys get so triggered because my screen is so stretched. I know. Look, it's one of those things that I've just learned to deal with. A lot of people think that you can code it out. You cannot. You cannot code the stretch screen in the earlier model cars. Why? I don't know. But I've tried it. I've talked to multiple sources, reputable sources, and have confirmed that you cannot code out the stretch in the earlier models. Ooh, Beamer. M6. You cannot code out the stretch in the earlier models. So you know, anyone new who's coming to this channel, or even old people who have not realized that you cannot code it out, it is true. You cannot code out the stretch in the earlier model vehicles. I just want to make that very clear. In the earlier model vehicles. Some of the later ones you can. Mine, however, I cannot. I think a lot of you might see it in the videos and you're like, oh my God, how can he live with that? It's just like anything, guys. You kind of get used to it, and it doesn't bother me anymore. And the other thing that this car doesn't have is the actual Bluetooth audio. This car does not have Bluetooth audio, so I have to use a little Bluetooth aux adapter, which it's not terrible. Like, it still works like Bluetooth, but it's definitely not as nice, and the audio quality isn't as good. It would be cool to have Bluetooth. Now, I have Bluetooth audio in the E90, and it's amazing. So I definitely wish that this car had a comm box so I could have the Bluetooth audio. I could go ahead and retrofit a comm box, but I don't think that's worth it. I really don't think that's worth the money that it would take to buy the comm box and do the whole install. The other things are the lighting. I think that the external lights, the LCI tail lights, and then the xenon front headlights, I just think that they're much cleaner on the F series than they were the E90. The E90 is obviously an early, it's a 2011, so it's a little bit before they hit that more modern look. The F30, I think, did a really good job of having beautifully modern LED lights, especially with the rings and the xenons. Like, this car, I just love it. And obviously, if you have the LCI version F30, then you have those really, really beautiful headlights. You know, I'll be honest, I was thinking about doing them for a while, but I really like the way that the headlights look on this car. I think that they just fit it, and I don't think I'm gonna change them out. I think they look really sharp, and they do their job. They serve their purpose. Also, with that S-Tech headlight tint, like, that was a game changer. It's the perfect amount of tint. It just darkened it enough to where it kind of looks like they might be custom painted, like on the housings, like they might be black, but you can't quite tell. So I'm really, really happy with where this car is at in terms of like lighting. There were some talks about maybe doing black line depot tail lights, but you know, you guys, the black line ones, they just look cheap to me. Like the black line ones, do you remember Altezas? Remember when everyone was rocking Altezas? Hopefully some of you are old enough or just remember what Altezas were. I don't even know if people rock those anymore, but Altezas were a trend like when Fast and the Furious was first came out. Everyone was getting these like clear bulbs for their clear housings for their taillights and headlights. I just feel like the black lines look very Altezza-ish, very eBay-ish. I think the OEM LCI tails are the sexiest ones available, and they just look super clean. If anything, I would just S-Tech them and make them a little bit darker, which I might do, but I'm not really a big fan of the black lines. I think that they look cool on some cars, especially like black or like darker cars. I think they look super dope. But I've also heard about condensation issues with the black lines where there's a lot of water getting inside of them. I don't know why, it's just the black lines. Either way, I won't be changing out mine. I like the OEM ones. I'm gonna stick with them. I think that there's a fine line between like going too far and just making it super ricey, and then having it like clean, like tastefully modified. Because you can definitely lose control like real fast when it comes to modifying, and you just like go off the deep end and buy everything that you can ever buy for the car, and it just gets to be like a little ridiculous. Look, I'm a little bit older, like I'm 34, so like I'm not really trying to have like the craziest car out there. If I was doing like a SEMA build, you know, which honestly someday I might buy a car just to do a SEMA build. But that'll be a long ways out, you know, when I have a little more flexibility in my life. Obviously, you know, right now, and my whole life does not revolve around YouTube. I just do this for fun. So for me, I like to keep the cars relatively clean. I would say that this F30, I've gone pretty far. Like the carbon fiber trunk was a bit of a stretch for me. It's, you know, that's something that I felt like might have been a little bit over the top, but I like it. I like it because it's wrapped, so it still holds some like OEM qualities, I guess you could say. It doesn't look too crazy, but you can definitely get ahead of yourself and start slapping on mods and just like go way too far with these cars. I think that it all just depends on like what you're looking to get out of the car and like what your maturity level is of modifying and all that stuff. So I definitely tried to like not get too carried away with this car, and that's why my approach with the E90 is going to be a lot different. I'm definitely not doing crazy exterior mods to that car. I'm keeping it very, very clean and very, very simple. If I do pour any like big dollars into it, it's gonna be like a supercharger kit or something like that. I'm not quite sure. We'll talk about that at a later date. I also want to take some photos, man. I need to get some new pictures of the F30, some different stuff. I've just haven't had time to take any photos this week. I've been so busy. You guys may or may not know, but I actually go out specifically one day a week and I take pictures for content. Like, that's how I approach my social media game when it comes to like Instagram. Like, I really, really love that shit. Like, I really, really love the process of photography and editing and taking new photos and just trying different things. And like, I don't know, that excites me, man. Like, that gets me going. So when it comes to content, like, it's not really just about Instagram or posting on Instagram. I just really enjoy the process of it all. And that's why I put so much time into like specifically dedicating one night per week or one day per week where I go out and I just shoot and I get better with photography and I learn about my camera and like what lenses I like better and the angles of this car. And I do get a lot of DMs on Instagram, you know, like, how can I make my pictures look better? Well, I can tell you, take time, put more time into what you're doing and like actually want to build that craft. There's nothing that I'm gonna tell you that's just gonna fix everything and make you a fantastic photographer. Fantastic photographers put the time in, they put the work in. And so I've been doing this for like a year now, just consistently taking photos of my car 1 day or 2 days or even 3 days per week with new camera gear and the same camera gear and just trying new editing techniques. And that's how I've gotten to where I'm at, is because I just put the time in. And there's nothing that anyone is gonna tell you that is just gonna make you become a fantastic photographer. You also have to invest in yourself. Like, I invested in a better camera for myself, a better lens. I did my research. I spent hours and hours online of researching videos and tutorials and figuring out what looks good and what's great for photography and for automotive photography and how to edit cars and stuff like that. So if photography is something that you want to get into and, you know, boosting your car Instagram page, then take the time to learn about it. Like, anything in life, like, you're never going to feel satisfied if someone just tells you something and like you think you become good at it real quick. It's never going to be satisfying because you didn't work for it. Like, you got to work for the things that to reap those benefits and feel good about them. You gotta earn it, man. You gotta earn that stuff. I've really, really enjoyed for the past, I don't know how long I've had the M3, a month, a little over a month and a half, something like that, maybe 2 months, I can't remember. But I've honestly really enjoyed just having this car as like my daily. It also gives me like the peace of mind that, you know, if anything were to ever happen to one of the cars, I'm not stuck. I'm not stuck without another car, because that was the biggest thing when I was having one of the cars being worked on. I didn't have another car to get things done. And for me, I'm always working, running errands. I need to be moving all the time to make things happen in my life. And when you're without a car, for me, for what I do, it's kind of a big deal. Like, it's kind of like going to take money out of your pocket, especially when it comes to like content and all that stuff. Like, I can't make videos. So it's important to me to have a good vehicle. So yeah, the F30, it's just so bouncy. This car is so bouncy, which has a lot to do with my spring rate and the stock shocks. So one of the things I love about this car is it sounds absolutely incredible. For it being a four-banger, man, this car sounds pretty good. So when I say like beating on your car, like, this is pretty much the extent that I go to like pushing my car. I wouldn't even call it beating, because, like, you know, you're just driving the car fast. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. That's not hurting the vehicle. It's the burnouts, it's the consistent racing, the launch controls, like really hard turning on really shitty roads. Like, those are the things that are really going to fuck your car up. But, you know, going out and driving your car the way that it's meant to be driven, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that one of the biggest takeaways with the F30 when it is, you know, when we're talking about it being a great daily driver is that the car is just so comfortable. It's such a great split between comfort, reliability, and like the drivability, the peppiness of the car. Also kind of like, just like the room in the car. The car is it's spacious for a 3 Series, for a little 4-door sedan. Like, the car is spacious. It's got grocery hooks, bro. It's got grocery hooks. I know you've seen my grocery video, or if you follow me on Instagram, I'm always showing the grocery bags like hooked on the little hooks in the trunk. Those are for your groceries, which is just awesome. So your groceries aren't like flying all over the place. Like, that's a daily driver attribute right there. Wouldn't you think? Take some of these corners here. Yeah, man. This car is great. I love this F30, man, I'm telling you. It also looks sick. I think the styling of the F30 is it's modern. It's not like too modern, but it's just modern enough. It still has a lot of like the square features, and a little bit of like some round features, but it's mostly squared off. It looks great. It's one of my favorite body style BMWs, the F80 and the F30. I think that they absolutely just nailed it with these cars. So I've done like a couple of these ride-along videos where I kind of just cruise and talk about shit, and you guys, you can let me know what you think about them. If you enjoy them, cool. Hit that like button. If not, dislike, whatever. Do what you do. I'm talking to Brian Keys right now. He just texted me. Brian got a new car, guys. Anyone know what Brian got? Hopefully he didn't announce it by the time this video comes out. Comment down below and see if you can guess Brian's next car. I already know. And it's sick. It is absolutely sick. It's like something that I would have bought for sure. But yeah, he got himself a new car for the channel and for the shop and just for life and just for being a productive dude. He rewarded himself. And man, it is a sick car. Sick car. I think you guys are gonna dig it. Alright, you guys, so just to wrap up this video, basically in conclusion, this car is a fantastic daily driver. There's just so many things, so many checkpoints that this car hits. Just using it every day and getting things done around town, and just the mix between the way it looks and the peppiness of it and its reliability, all of those things considered, I really do believe that the F30 is a fantastic daily driver. And it really comes down to how well do you take care of your car, how do you drive it, what are you doing, what kind of roads are you driving it on, and I guess what the purpose of the actual car is. Anyways, guys, hopefully this brought some value to you. If so, make sure you hit that like button. If you're new here, please do consider subscribing. My name is John. I do all F30 and E90 BMW content. Make sure you guys comment down below if you have anything to add to this video, anything that I might have missed when it comes to daily driving an F30, or just tell me what you like about your F30 or what you don't like about your F30. But just like that, you guys, this video is over and I'm out. See you in the next one. Peace.